Today on the podcast, I'm sitting down with Mikael, 2024 World Barista Champion, and Tigger, a freelance copywriter and writer behind Mikael's book, Bloom. We talk about how the book came together, why Miki wanted to tell his story, and why it ended up being less about coffee and more about everything around it. We get into the writing process, the competition years, burnout, pressure, and some of the more personal parts of the story that don't usually get talked about. If you're curious about the writing process, selling coffee books, and how a project like this actually comes to life, this is the episode to listen to. And with that, let's get into it. Welcome to By the Drip, the channel about the people behind the coffee and the passion that fuels it. We're two brothers who have spent our lives chasing something deeper than just great coffee. From walking farms in remote corners of the world to training and coaching multiple world barista champions. I'm David Crosby, founder of ROSSO COFFEE ROASTERS, the roasters behind back-to-back world champion wins. And I'm with my brother, Cole Terode, founder of Forward Coffee, sourcing some of the most inspiring coffees from Panama and building lasting relationships at origin. This isn't just a channel about coffee, it's about community, obsession, and the pursuit of excellence. One cup, one story, one coffee at a time. All right, team, how did you two first meet, and was it through coffee?
How did we? Well, we met through a mutual friend. Yeah. So I wanted to do the book, and I initially contacted someone I know who I have worked with before, but they were couldn't fit it in their schedule, so they introduced me to Tigger, and then. When I was looking through Tigger's work, I realized that she was the one who wrote Boram's piece, the one that Barista magazine did with you guys in Athens. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so we had never met before the project started, but we have been in the same place at the same time. So like Boston, I was Milan, I was there. We had just never met. We never talked to each other until December last year, or November maybe.
Yeah. Something like that.
And was the idea, Miki, were you always going to write a book? Or after you won, that kind of came into your mind? Where did the book idea start?
I can't remember who, but few people told me that it would be cool if I could have a book about my journey, and not really a coffee book, just sharing my story about preparing for WBC and my journey in coffee. I initially didn't really want to do it because I felt a bit weird. At least initially, I didn't think that the world needed another autobiography book, especially on a barista champion. But then a lot of the points that people made to me was like, oh, you should share it so that other people can also go and experience it for themselves, be on the journey themselves. I'm like, okay, if that's the goal and the purpose, then maybe I can do it. And right away I knew that I don't want to be the one writing it. So yeah.
Are you a good writer or no?
I write caption for my social media and things like that. A lot of the times with the help of my AI friend. But writing a whole book is a whole different thing, right? I like writing things down, but you have to be able to, I guess, have this silver lining, and that's what makes a good book, right? And I don't think I could do that. So almost right away, I started looking for people who can help me write the book. Yeah.
And Tigger, take us through the very beginning. You guys have that chat. How do you start writing a book? Where does it all begin? What steps does someone go through? Because I think a lot of people don't know an author's journey.
Yeah, it is my first book, and it was so daunting at the beginning because I had never written anything at this length. I did study, I have a degree in literary journalism, which is long form journalism. So I am used to following a subject for an extended period of time, really getting to know the ins and outs of their life and building in all of that detail into their story. So it's not just a news story or like a feature, but really going into a lot of detail. And so for me, it was more like taking what I had in my degree and expanding that into a much longer project. And I think what was nice was this is a biography, right? So the story is already there. You're not really making up anything, you're not adding anything, you're not creating as much. And so we started where I think most people would start with a biography, which is a linear process from childhood to now. And then once we kind of figured out, okay, what happened when you were a kid? What happened when you were at primary school? What happened last week? Then you can start to see where you can shift things and figure out, okay, this part actually is quite related to that, or I want to bring this further into the front, or we don't want to just make it super linear where you know exactly what's going to happen because everybody knows he wins.
Right.
um, it's you don't want people to just be like, okay, this is just going to be one straightforward A to Z story where you go from being born to winning, and you want to weave it in so that it's like you can get that part kind of talked about in the very beginning so that people are like, okay, but then this is just the beginning of the book. Like, what's going to happen next? What else? Why is the book 400 pages long? What else happens in his life that's worth writing about? So, yeah, laying out all the puzzle pieces face up and then putting it together in the picture.
How many hours do you think you spent interviewing like,
Ooh,
Mickey, the whole team? And
ooh,
then do you interview someone and then you write the chapter? Like, how does that process work?
ooh. I can probably take a look at my transcripts because I still have them all, but it's like hours and hours of interviews, especially with Mickey, because I spent a few weeks in Jakarta with him, and most of the time we were just stuck in traffic. So that could take, an hour or four. So I have plenty of interviews recorded from that. And talking to other people around the world, a few hours with each person, a lot of hours with Yessi, a lot of hours with his team as well, like Reina and Bagas. And then it's not really like every person has their own chapter because a lot of these people they come in and out of his life at different parts. So maybe like talking to Dale Harris, yeah, that's more like in one area of the book, and then talking to Daryanto, who is like more involved in his whole career, that's going in and out. So for me, actually, what took the longest in the writing process was looking for, okay, I remember this person said that thing, but where in the transcript is that actually located? And I had like 50 tabs open because I have like all these different recordings and trying to figure out. And thank goodness for Control F to just look. I remember this word that they said and being able to search for that. That took a long time, but it made it a lot easier to do.
And Mickey, how was it? You're going back to your childhood, you're like drumming up these memories to put into the book. How did you kind of get into the mindset to think of yourself when you're 7 years old, 9 years old?
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's pretty crazy because you just don't think about those stuff anymore, right? And then only when somebody asks you about that, you kind of go back and try to remember things. I guess in a lot of ways, I'm still somewhat in touch with those parts of me because then I have been doing the work with my therapist anyway, right? So every now and then we visit my childhood, and but then that's mainly, either trauma-related stuff or something that you wanna work on. Whereas with Tigger, it was more like, oh, do you remember what was your childhood like and things like that. But I think what she did great is that she interviewed me and then my sort of version of my childhood, but then she also interviewed my parents, my dad and my mom. And only after reading the drafts and the final book that I realized, I never see my childhood from that side. So it's also interesting for me to read the first few chapters of the book, because then it's also told from other people's perspective, mainly my family. But yeah, it was very cool to be able to read that. It's also a little bit scary. Uh, I don't know if you've read through everything, but it's a lot of really personal stuff that we decided we just have to put it out there and then just don't think about it anymore. But I'm also glad that my parents are willing to share that side of the story as well. So it's pretty scary at first, but we made the decision to just go for it and then put it out there.
What were you most worried about? What was like the big? I didn't realize you were
Fat.
y- overweight. You were a little heavier as a child, and reading about that and you going through that and dealing with some of those things was quite eye opening for me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, there were some stuff that I didn't think was relevant. Um, and then I was talking to Shabna, my therapist, and she was like, oh, maybe you should talk about your struggle with food. But that doesn't really have any connection to coffee at all. But she's like, yeah, but it's a big part of your life, and you struggled with it for a long time, and eventually you got over it. I got over it just by myself. I didn't really work on it or anything, but you just got over it. So it was an important part as well to put in the book. There was another. I don't know how much we want to reveal in this episode, but there's also another part where I was struggling with money, and before I was a barista, and then I had to try to survive with certain type of food. Right? I never told that story to my mom. Um, because I know it would it would break her. I'll tell that story to my dad, but my dad's like, cool story, like it's all good now. But I'm sure, like, I don't know if my mom has read that part of the book. Um, but yeah, I never told my mom that. I still haven't told her about that. So eventually she'll find out that I had to struggle with food, and yeah, that's things like that. It was also like when I was reading through the draft and the book, like I had to relive that memories as well, and it's actually quite therapeutic. And hopefully, I think one of the goals of the books is so that people can also use that or use and relate to the story, or use some of the tools that we put in there to help them with their lives, not just coffee. And I think what Tigger did really great is to use relatable things like that and then just put it in a coffee context, because I'm a coffee person.
Yeah, I think what was important was we talk about, two really big hurdles that Mickey had overcome. One was burning out, and the other one was, the eating and the struggles with food. And I thought what was interesting when I was getting to know him was that there wasn't really at any point where we were talking about the burnout and he was saying, like, burnout is bad, avoid burnout, do whatever you can to really, you know, don't push yourself that far. Instead, it was more like accepting that, okay, sometimes this happens, and what do you do about it, and how do you recover from that? And same with the eating, it was like he had found a way to sort of accept that it was something that was a part of him, and then figuring out how to live with this this thing and going forward and making it into something that wasn't so much of a hurdle, I guess.
How do you balance telling the story, respecting Miki's feelings, and maybe you don't need to respect those, but balancing all, kind of, you got these making it engaging for the reader, respecting what's gone on in the past, and also telling a story. How do you balance that?
I think the more vulnerable parts were also a bit challenging for me. It's like, how do I write this respectfully? And thank goodness I had such a great editor with Sarah Allen from Barista magazine, because she could really be the second pair of eyes on that and make sure that things were respectful but honest and still transparent. And the interesting thing is that Mickey's life itself is already so cinematic that the way he just approaches things or the way that he feels things, it's already quite emotional, right? And you don't have to fluff that up at all. It's just the way that he views a certain scene or the way he takes things in. It's already like you could hear the music in the background already, and it's already very exciting, and you can really relate to it and feel connected to it just as it is. So if you just tell it his story like it is, it's already very moving for people.
And you guys made the decision to put a bunch of kind of kind of work, like little checklists on things to do as you're reading it. When did that decision kind of come up, and maybe walk us through why add that element into the book?
I
We
think that
decided
was,
pretty early, I think,
yeah, from the very
because
beginning.
yeah, one of the biggest reason was so that people can use this book and go on and do and chase their dream, right? So, and I know in my journey, I was helped by a few books that are like that. You know, you read this book and it's not just it's not just a book from cover to cover, but every chapter there's always something that you have to do. These little bits of exercise, either if it's a David Goggins book or a Ikigai book or the directive affirmation. Like all these books help me become who I am, and I want Bloom to be like that as well for the people who read. So yeah, from early on, I think from the very first call, I think I told Tigger that we wanted to make it like that. The challenge was to pick up which tools to put in and then where to put them in, I guess.
Yeah, I think we also wanted it to be a book that people keep coming back to. So it's not like you read it once and you stick it on your shelf forever. It's you decide, okay, actually, I'm ready to compete. Where was that QR code for the competition spreadsheets? Or, oh, I remember there was that one recipe on that page. I want to go back to that at that time. Or maybe I don't want to give out too many spoilers into the resources, but if you remember filling out one of the journal prompts at one point and you're like, well, maybe I want to revisit this a couple of years down the road. Like, what did I write back then? Where was I at? It's something that you can keep maybe using for a very long time, and we want it to be as useful for as many people as possible.
Is there one, maybe you could speak about one tool kit, like you're saying, or one part that would be like pique someone's interest? You're pulling out the book right now,
Pulling
so
out the book.
Oh my God.
the cover, I love how it's like glow in the dark. It's very, very nice. The build of the book, like physically, is very nice. It's very enjoyable to read.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. We had a great publisher who did the design, and they put all of these interesting glow in the dark special features that we didn't even know until it showed up in my living room, and I turned off the lights, and I was like, whoa, weird. Um, let's see. Which one do you want to talk about?
Well, I just did a workshop yesterday in Johannesburg with tools from the book.
Oh
So
well.
yeah. So it's kind of like a spin on the WBC workshop that champions do, but using tools from the book. So I started with the Ikigai tool, like figuring out what people want to do and figuring out if coffee is their passion, and if so, is competition for them or not. And from there we move to the more practical WBC preparation stuff. Tigger talked at great length about the ikigai thing, because then what ikigai actually is, the Japanese version of it, and what most people know as ikigai, the westernized version of it, is actually pretty different. Uh, and when I was doing the exercise in 2016, I did the bastardized Western version instead of the real Japanese one. But then it helped me, and I think Tigger put it in the book. It's like, oh, like even though Miki did not the original one, but then this tool actually helped him in his journey. So I think maybe we can do that, Tigger.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that
It's
also
either that
resonates.
or the emotional wheel. I like that too.
That was cool. But with the Ikigai one, because I had a couple of non-coffee friends proofread, or not proofread, but just read through the book before the final draft, just to make sure that even a non-coffee person could find something interesting in it. And that was what also resonated with them was we had broken down the Ikigai process into a few different prompts, and to help you kind of set yourself up to figure out, okay, what actually brings you joy and what is your passion. So doing a bit of a deep dive, but with a lot of hand holding along the way, so that you could really, because when you ask somebody straight out, like, what are you passionate about, or what do you want to do with your life, it's really hard to answer in a way that is constructive or like sort of evidence backed or realistic. So when we dive into it a little bit more piece by piece, then hopefully you get to build a bigger picture of your options or where you are in life and where you want to go from there. But yeah, the emotion wheel was also really cool. Do you want to explain a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So the emotional flavor wheel, no, emotional wheel, is something that I came across in Shabnam's room. So after the first few sessions, I noticed this pillow, and then it has what I thought was flavor wheel. Basically, it really looked like the flavor wheel, right? With all the colors and everything, but it had more flavors. So I'm like, oh, what is this? And then I start looking at it, and it's actually the emotional wheel. So it's basically trying to help you pinpoint how you feel with
Nice.
your physical reaction to that feeling. So say, oh, if I'm anxious, where do I feel it in my body? Is it my palms are sweaty, or am I shivering, or is my heartbeat beats faster, things like that. So the idea is that to notice your emotions and physiological response to it, so that you can be aware of it and then address it, right? So it's cool, because then it's very, if when you put it side by side with the flavor wheel, the flavor wheel starts like that. You look at acidity, and then what type of acidity, if it's citrus, and then what type of citrus it is. So it's I think for coffee people, it's going to be very relatable, because then they are used to using the tool for flavors, but then now they can use it for their feelings as well.
Do you break your feelings down through that wheel, or is it more of just kind of a mindset, a frame of reference?
You do actually break it down. So in the flavor wheel you start with the general one of like fruity or roasted or whatever, but in the middle of the emotion wheel it's like angry or sad. You can break down angry into, are you feeling aggressive or critical? And then you can break that even further down to, do you feel like you've been provoked, or do you feel like you can be angry, but you can also be very skeptical and critical. So yeah, you're really just breaking it down into narrowing down what you're really feeling. Because angry can be a whole bunch of different things, or fruity could be a whole bunch of different things, and actually trying to narrow down what it is and what it's reminding you of.
Where where did you, looking back at the book and going through, so you've done all these interviews, you're kind of putting this thread through all of it. How how difficult is it to place all the pieces in the book together so it's like cohesive and someone's like reading it and they're getting to chapter 10 and they're saying, hey, you're going on this weird tangent, let's like bring it back into a linear script? Or does that not happen?
That definitely happened. Um, and that's why, for me, having an editor was so important. And not just that, it was also when you're talking about things and you have an editor who knows so much about the industry, like Sarah does, and so much about the history of the WBC as well. And she can add so much more context into places where, people would be getting lost or trying to understand, okay, how did we get to this point? What was the significance of Matt Perger and what he did on stage? This was what, so many years ago. And being able to add that and having the context flow through was really important. And also just having more readers, more eyes on the page to be like, wait a minute, I'm lost here. Where did you go with this? Especially with non-coffee readers. Because even things, something like the WBC, we're talking about the cart a lot. And one of my readers was like, what is this cart? Like, why are you talking about it so much? Why is prepping it so important? Like, it's just a cart. Like, and then being able to add some of that context back in was also really important. So, yeah.
It was very nice to read the book and the depth you went into the competitions, while at the same time you could give the book to a non-coffee person and they could read through it and understand what the card is about and what backstage looks like and how visualization in the competition is so important, or the stress like building up to the announcements. Yeah, you did such an amazing job giving both sides of context, because it's very, I imagine as an author, it's very hard to write for both groups.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why a lot of the tools were also a bit like kind of all over the place. There were some really hardcore tools and then some really like general tools so that we could make sure, even if you're a super pro, like a fellow competitor or a fellow champion, there could at least still be something interesting in here. Or if you're a total noob, what else can you use from this? So even like adapting Mickey's onstage recipes or adapting his pour over recipes to an easy at home version versus like the whole built out version with all the minerals and everything. We wanted to make it very approachable for both for anybody really.
Is there a favorite moment in the book for you?
Ooh.
I know mine,
The last
but you go
page.
first. Yeah. Let's-
Um, I I think when I was writing, the part that I got really emotional at two parts actually. One was after Milan, when he had come in seventh place. To a lot of people, that's a huge win, right? You're seventh best in the world. You've used Indonesian coffee that has never made it that far. It's a great thing, but for him it was devastating. And writing out that scene where he comes off stage and walks to his team and sees his coffee producer, Andre, who made the coffee from Flores for the competition, and him just kind of breaking down at that moment was really emotional for me to write. And I think it's one of my favorite parts because you've built up exactly just I just really wanted people to understand what this means for someone like Mickey, someone who had carried so much weight on their shoulders, especially because, especially in Europe where people don't know about the WBC, they don't know about competition coffee. This is all so new for them. Then they're always like, how do people take it so far? They have no idea. And, this is the moment where it really shows you how much it means to somebody to take it that far and to have this disappointment. And I think that's something that hopefully I'm able to convey to someone who doesn't quite know the stakes. And then the second part, I really actually liked writing about your wedding. I think mostly because I was really influenced by the song that you guys chose to walk down the stairs from the reception from.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like, I'm listening to Mickey's playlist. He has the world champion one with all of the like rap and stuff, and I'm like, meh. But the song that he and Yessie chose to walk down, it's just a really nice song, and we included that in the lyrics and the part as well, and it's just, it just makes me feel really cozy. And, but yeah, your turn.
I like the bit. I think Busan announcement. I really think you managed to capture the emotion that I was going through, and the team, like Dave and Cole and Yessi and Yanto, everybody. Like just you wrote every single thing on the script. That's one. So and then also with like the stumbles and everything. So like you really, I think if people are used to imagining things, they can really put pictures, like you draw it really well using your words, right? So I like reading that part because then I could relive that moment, and then I still got nervous and like anxious just reading through the announcement as well because like I know what's gonna happen. I think everybody knows what's gonna happen, right? But you managed to make the reader pretend that they don't know what's gonna happen, and I really like how you wrote that part.
Oh, thank you.
It,
I
it,
actually have a
go
yeah,
ahead,
I
go
have
ahead.
a question for Dave, like, because you're also in this book. So what was it like for you to read that?
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I got it right here, and I got to probably page 300 and 340 or something like that. No, 320, and saw the next page. We were in a photo, and then put it down for a week, and I didn't. There was something in my mind that I was like nervous about reading about myself, which and so I didn't pick up the book for like a week, and then I was sitting here on a Saturday, and I was like, why am I hesitating to read about the part I know about? Like, what is like, wouldn't that be the part I'm like most fascinated and want to go to first? And so I just found that super interesting. Anyways, I ended up reading obviously the rest of the book, and like Miki just said, I got nervous. I can relive those emotions from WBC and the announcements, and I like my heart rate was going up, and I was getting like sweaty reading it, and but also feeling just such a sense of pride and knowing I didn't know the whole backstory, so it made it even more special now knowing like more of a complete picture of you know in Milan how hard it was for you, and like you talking about those moments of coming seventh and feeling the weight of a nation and the coffee producers and everyone on your team. I knew that happened, but I didn't know in such detail. And so, yeah, it made the other side just so much more powerful. And I've, yeah, I really, really enjoyed the book. I've read quite a few deep books, and I think the book is very well written. I enjoyed like the process of like other interactive things in the book to help support me on like my growth or my journey. And I think a lot of other coffee professionals think should use those tools. You don't have to use every tool in the book, but there could be one tool in there that all of a sudden it's like clicks, understanding my why, or do I set up like my presentation or my routine, or what should I track?
Yeah, thank you. Uh, I'm glad
Yes,
you.
it was very interesting also, like when when we started the book, we didn't have a publisher. So it's kind of like let's just start this project first, and then we figure out who's gonna print for us later. I don't know at which point we started talking to After Hours. Maybe towards the second half.
Yeah.
Or yeah, like we already had like maybe a few chapters at that point.
Yeah.
Because then we need to show something to them, right? And I've talked to After Hours before, the publisher, because they wanted me to do a coffee recipe book like a few years ago. And then they've helped publish a couple of coffee books in Indonesia, but they were all coffee table books, so recipes, pictures of coffee farms, things like that. And when we gave them the draft, their feedback was like, "Oh, where are the recipes?" Like we weren't gonna involve any recipes because we didn't think of the book as a coffee book. You know, like it's a book about my journey, and it happened to be in coffee. But it was, I think that's part of the reason why the book are like 400 pages long, because then we also, now because we need to work with the publisher, we need to listen to them and take their feedback on board and start putting in recipes as well. So again, like Tigger had to find the balance between how to make it interesting and you still put in actual tools and also recipes for people to follow. But I think she did it in a way that it's still relevant to the book. So the recipes are like, oh, this is the CIGS drink, and apparently it was one of the best tasting drinks according to one of the judges, things like that. It was very interesting.
No, could I just pause really quick and turn on
Yeah.
some lights because it's getting really
Yeah.
dark.
No problem.
No, we can see the bloom lighting up in the jar.
Oh, God.
Is it creepy to have my face like in your living room? Yeah.
Dude, yes.
Next to
It's
your
not
Christmas
usually like
tree.
that.
It's a reminder.
I usually
It's a
turn
reminder.
it when it's not like filming. Oh, but I have-
Even with that cover, we didn't want to put my face on the cover. Like me and Tigger really didn't want to put my face on the cover.
No.
But the publisher insisted on putting it because they have some figures, and then it says that if you put someone's face on the cover, then it makes it more sellable. And obviously, they have to think about the commercial aspect of it as well, right? So
Yeah, but now the book is for sale at like a major book reseller or retailer in Indonesia,
Oh, wow.
and like a big chain, and they have a whole section about books on Indonesia, and you have Mickey's face next to like past presidents and stuff. It's wild.
it is
Good problem to have.
Yeah. I found out because one of my friends who's from Melbourne came to visit Indonesia on like some bar pop-up bar takeover that he's doing, and then he took a picture of it and he's like, "Is this you?" Like, "Oh, I didn't even know that my Bloom is in that major book chain store." So it's pretty cool.
Let's talk about the publisher and the business side of books. Imagine trying to drive profits and revenue out of books is pretty challenging. But what does a publisher do to help support in the whole book process?
You want to start, Tigger?
Sure. Yeah, the main thing definitely from the beginning was actually just for them to be so encouraging, especially as a first-time book author. We had thought about approaching maybe a US-based publisher or something, and wait times for that are like over a year, where they don't even, and that's even if you look at your manuscript. But with a lot of things in Asia, things can happen very quickly. And it wasn't just that they took us on with such a tight timeline, it's that they really believed in the book and Mickey's story. And having that encouragement and having them just say, "Oh yeah, this is really cool, this is going really well, this is a great chapter outline," it made me feel really good and be able to write with a lot more confidence. So that's a big role that your publisher could play. And the other one was the actual layout of the book. So we gave them just the Word document and the images, and then they put it together on a layout. And they were just really really amazing. Lance, who was the main person I think behind After Hours, he would be responding to my constant wanting to change things, and moving things around and constantly making edits and revisions to the draft, over and over, finding typos, which is something that like we all had to put our eyes on. And up until the very last moment where we had already sent the book to the printer, it was supposed to already be completely done deal. And then this was like in August. Two pieces of news came out that, coffee is constantly updating, right? There's always new discoveries and whatnot. And two pieces of news came out, that immediately made some things in the book, or one thing made something in the book incorrect, which is about the scientific naming of Coffea liberica and excelsa. And I was like, shoot, I need to fix this like right now. It's already gone to the press. I am so sorry. Can we please just edit this one sentence on this one page? And he was like, okay, okay, okay.
Wow.
And then also when the news about the Hacienda El Esmeralda auction and the breakthrough of the price ceiling came out, I thought that was also just super important because it was such a huge leap from the previous record that I included in the book. So just for him to be able, the publisher to be able to make those changes and understand why it's important, even though the book has already been sent to the printer and is like ready to go out, that was also just such a blessing to have somebody understanding and quick and responsive to help us make this book into really the best that it could be.
It sounds like they support a lot on like design. Are they making final decisions on the title, or are you guys making that decision? You said like the photograph, they recommended the photograph, so you guys kind of caved into that one. What else kind of back and forth do you have, publisher?
Well, with this one, it's pretty interesting because well, this is our first experience with a publisher, right? So I don't know if this is how it normally goes or not, but with After Hours, it's more like a partnership. So we split the cost between us and After Hours, and they help with the design and layout and ISBN registration, things like that. So we can just focus on the story, and then we all think about marketing and distribution together. So yeah, it's pretty. I think it's really good because then it's more like a partnership. You just discuss things, and we both have to agree on certain decisions. Whereas I think if the publisher is the one commissioning you to work, then it's more like, oh, I'm the publisher. This is what I think is gonna work. You just write it this way. It never happened to us. They were very chill about the actual content of the book. They didn't, like we had Tigger had complete creative freedom on what to put, and they were very chill and super quick. Yeah. Things move super quickly.
Yeah, we workshopped the title for a long time. It was mostly, I think, with me and Sarah emailing back and forth title ideas, and I don't even remember the very first title that we
They had
had.
a comment about the title.
Yeah, it was more like
Yeah.
an Indonesian thing.
Yeah, like bloom, like in Indonesian doesn't, Indonesian it means you haven't done something. Like bloom means you have not, but it also kind of sound like blow on, like BLOON, which means stupid. So they were a little bit concerned about people making fun of the title, but I don't think anyone does at this point. Maybe after this episode comes out, they're like, yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm a bit of a business guy, so are they giving you any projections on like what sales are going to be, or do you guys have sales targets, or because it's kind of a one of one type of book, is that difficult to figure out or understand?
Well, when we first, well, at least with me, and when I started the project, being very profitable was not the main goal. The main goal was to share my story and hopefully inspire others, because that's part of my directive affirmation when I was competing for Busan. It was one of the sentences that I repeat over and over again, right? So this is sort of like the manifestation of that promise. But obviously it still is a business. So we sort of plan it by the minimum print run, and that's 3,000 pieces per run. So we make the numbers like that. And actually the printing costs and things like that, when you split it into 3,000, is quite expensive. But I'm hoping that there are reprints. So I'm personally aiming for 3 reprints of 9,000. And
nice.
That way you can you can split the the design cost, the ISBN cost, things like that, the mold for the shiny things, and when you split into 9,000, it's actually pretty good. The biggest challenge was actually shipping. Shipping book was because it's so heavy, right? So the shipping cost is actually a lot more expensive than the actual book cost. So we struggle a little bit with that, especially for Indonesia. We didn't print in Indonesia because if we were to print in Indonesia, it would actually be more expensive and slower than printing in China. So we, like, after hours, we work with a printer in China, and we couldn't really, at least for Indonesian tax purposes, we couldn't just ship from China to final distributors or something, because then we wouldn't have the necessary paperwork that counts as export. It's transaction that is happening overseas. So it's just, and with the way my company is set up, it doesn't fit the registration and all that. So we actually have to ship the book to Indonesia and then re-export it. It's a bit of a, that's the one that eats your margin. But for Tigger, mainly, I think it's the shipment, right? That is costing a lot.
Yeah.
But the numbers still check out. The margin is not that big, I would say. Bigger than green beans, though. So it's,
Oh no.
so it's still pretty good.
Yeah, shipping is truly the challenge. When we were talking about publishing and distribution, we didn't really have much of a plan yet. I guess just to kind of put some context, we started this project truly started in January 2025, and we wanted the books launched, written, printed, launched by October. So we only had 10
Wow.
months, which meant everything really had to be done by June. And so we were really just focusing as much as possible on the creative process, the writing, the research, the gathering. And we didn't put much thought into distribution or marketing. Even now, we're still trying to figure that out. We're like, let's just make it first and we'll figure this all out later. And so that's how I ended up taking on some of the direct sales in Europe, and kind of around the world, where people wouldn't have to order it through Indonesia if they want to get it in Europe or the US or whatnot. And yeah, so I'm sort of also the distributor in the Western part for now. And that's also been a fun learning curve. And it makes me really need to figure out okay, how are we actually going to market and distribute this? And we don't know, I don't think we really want to go on Amazon or anything like that for now. So we need to figure all of that out still.
Yeah, the business model is actually quite interesting because then it's a partnership between us and the distributor, the publisher. So we have our inventory, they have their own inventory, and everybody kind of do marketing together to help promote the book. But then the sales channels can come from either Tigger or me or After Hours. So we all have our own inventory. I'm doing the Indonesian version as well. So obviously that one is only for Indonesia. And that's very similar. So the publisher will have their own inventory and I will have my inventory, and then we all try to sell the book, which I think is quite unusual, right, with book sales. But in a lot of ways, I prefer that, because then we can really keep the creativity and the direction purely from us, rather than being diluted by the publisher.
Yeah, like even though we have a publisher, the collaborative nature of it does kind of feel like there's a lot of independence in this. So it is still a very direct project. As with a lot of coffee books, a lot of them are independently published. You get them directly from the author or the brand that the author is running. And yeah, it's just kind of what people are used to in the industry as well. And it's kind of nice to keep it like really close to, okay, you know where this book is coming from. You know the people who wrote it. You know the people it's about. A lot of your friends are probably in the book as well. And yeah.
Will you guys do an audiobook or an audio version?
I think we thought about ebook and audiobook. The initial concern from the publisher was that it's when you put it as a digital version, then it's very easy to be pirated.
Right.
To which I said, well, if they want to pirate, they're gonna pirate it anyway. Like in Indonesia, you have so many like pirated books are a thing. Like you can go online, like on e-platforms, like e-market platforms, and then you just buy pirated books from this platform. So I think it's gonna happen anyway. But I think they recommended that we wait for a little bit until we do the audio or the e-version. But I don't know. Like I don't really read books digitally. I like to hold the book. I've read a few things on Kindle and things like that, but it still feels different. So I don't know. But if Tigger want to do it, then yeah, why not?
Yeah, I don't know how we would translate all of the interactiveness into the audiobook either. I don't know how that would work. But every time I have to ship out the books or take them somewhere or do something with them,
You want an audiobook?
I want an ebook. Why did we? But
It's pretty heavy.
it's so heavy.
It is interesting because I have a few buddies. That's the only way they call it still reading, but they'll listen to it through audio. So maybe a new channel for you guys in 2020.
Yeah, I guess because people like just listen to audiobooks when they drive or at the gym when they're running, things like that. So yeah.
Okay, if we fast forward 10 years into the future and you guys look back at the book, what would be success? What would success feel like? We dive 10 years into the future.
Well, I guess I have two answers, and one is that if one person's life can change by following some of the prompts in the book, then that's success. I don't need 50 people, 1,000 people, or 3,000 people who buy the first print run. But if just one person's life become better because of it, that's success for me. So that's one. The other one, I guess, the more business aspect of it, and hopefully this starts a series of other projects, either more books about coffee recipes or things like that, and turn into something as well as a different source of revenue stream for my business and also for Tigger. But it's more on the first goal, I think. Because that's why we started the book, right? It's not really just purely to make more money, but it's to inspire others as well.
Yeah, I think for me, if something like because the content of the book can the subject of the book could be considered rather niche, which is coffee competitions, but the actual content of the book is a lot broader and a lot more relatable and a lot more general than just coffee competitions. So for me, success would kind of look like people being more aware of coffee competitions because they had picked up this one book about this one guy and just learning about coffee through that and the the heights that you can take specialty coffee. And if you're just walking around an airport book shop and you can see something like this on the shelf, that's would be like, whoa, be really cool.
I got a few rapid fire questions for both of you. We wrap up here. Okay, you can't pick this book. What is a coffee book that you both of you would recommend? Figure you got a few behind you. Which one would you recommend, or which one is your favorite coffee book that you have each read?
Can I do two?
Yeah, of course you can do as many as you want.
Well, can I do three?
Sure.
Oh, oops.
Oh, not that one.
No?
No, I'm joking. It's just the one I
Oh,
fell.
no.
No, the one I
Okay.
fell.
So, for me, I have three. I think a lot of people will recognize this one, Cheap Coffee. This is, I think, should be pretty standard reading for anybody in the coffee industry to just really understand the business implications of it, and the economics that go into the cogs of this whole industry. And I really liked it because it's written in a way that someone who's not economically savvy can also understand. So, Carl, this is a really good book. And then I'm also really, this one was also really reson, re, bleh. This one really also resonated with me, Making Better Coffee. It's by Edward Fisher, and it's about Guatemala and how colonialization has impacted the Mayan people in Guatemala. And what was interesting for me about this book is that, like this story, you can kind of replicate in any coffee origin, right? All of the exploitation that goes on and all of the systems that are set up. We can read one and you'll kind of really understand, okay, this happens everywhere that coffee is grown. And I really like how he ties it into specialty coffee and not just commercial coffee and big industry coffee and how these things, relate to each other. And the third one is something more recent. It's a lot lighter reading. It's Legends and Lattes. It's by Travis Baldree. Because I like to have, a lot of coffee books are really intense and they're nonfiction and you learn a lot, but they're really serious at times. And this one is a fantasy-based sort of Dungeons and Dragons universe sort of thing. But it's about just an entrepreneur who opens a cafe. She just happens to be an orc barbarian and her baker is a rat. Um, but it's all the trials and tribulations of like opening a cafe with some money and doing renovations and getting your coffee beans coming in, and it's a really nice. So the person who wrote this, Travis, like I think he knows coffee, but he also knows fantasy. So this is a nice, easy read. Absolutely, I enjoyed this so much, and it's in like a trilogy too. So there's more books called like Bread Shops and Bread Knives and something like that. So highly
Okay.
recommend.
Three great picks there. I love it.
Yes, yes.
Mickey, what do you
I
got?
don't, I don't read that many coffee books. I have bought, but haven't read the
You're a
Physics of
monster. I can't
Espresso.
believe you're saying that.
No, yeah, like the Physics of Espresso. I aspire to finish that over this Christmas break. I will finally have time to read that. I because I was never a technical or scientific coffee guy, and that's why I talk about my emotions rather than dial ins and the science of espresso. So I want to learn more about the physics of espresso, so I can at least hang out with real coffee people and look like I know what I'm doing. So I would recommend that. Another book that is not about coffee, but I found was a very enjoyable read, and I knew it through you. It was Green Light by Matthew McConaughey. And it's actually one of the books that I use as a reference when I talk to Tigger initially. I'm like, oh, I really enjoy Green Light, and I want at least Bloom to have some sort of resemblance to that. So yeah, those are the two books.
I didn't know that they were
Yeah, you
supposed to be,
posted
but
about it.
now that you've said it, I can kind of like see a bit of it in both. So it's a great book. It's I really enjoyed it. Okay, WBC just wrapped up. You had your retirement party in Milan with the release of the book. Does it How does it feel first to get the book for both of you out into the world? It's obviously been a big push. You started at the beginning of the year, so it's been a big push. And then how does retirement feel?
It doesn't feel like retirement at all. Which I'm glad, because then if suddenly after WBC Milan I have no more work, then
You're in trouble.
I'm in trouble, right? So I'm glad that I am still busy, because that means I still have ways to pay my bills and pay my people and have businesses and all that. So, but it feels good. I talked to, I think, Dale when I just won. Like the first few weeks after I won, I talked to a few of the previous champions, and then he was like, oh, like your first year, people just want to talk about your set, what you did, your coffee, they want to taste the coffee that you use and things like that. So it can get pretty repetitive. And then after that, you can actually focus on what you want to do in coffee. So I think it's quite refreshing. And I saw it happen in real time in Milan, like as soon as Jack was announced the champion, like all the cameras and all the attention shifted to him, rightly so. And then I was actually like, it's pretty crazy to see it on both sides, because then it happened to me in Busan, like from Boram to me, and then now that I've experienced being the WBC champion for that year, and then to see it happen to someone else, I'm like, oh, it was symbolic, but also at the same time I felt some weight off my shoulder. Not a relief, but it's like, oh, I can actually focus on other things now. Still, obviously, still in coffee, still doing what I do, but for that 1 year, you really are the ambassador for specialty coffee. Obviously, once you win it, it's kind of stays with you. But yeah, when you're the current barista champ, it feels very different. It's very hard to explain it, but it's good that some of the attention is on other people now. Yeah.
I can't even remember my question. Tigger, what were you going to say? Sorry. I was going to repeat it and I can't even remember now.
Yeah, I think it was something like, how do you feel about the book being out in the world?
Yeah,
I think for
I didn't
me,
answer that question.
that's okay.
yeah, I think, this past year has been really intense, and somehow I went in the span of, 365 days, I went from being a freelance writer to a published book author, which for me still hasn't quite sunk in somehow. I'm still a little bit shy about it. Every time, someone asks me to sign it, I just look at my signature and I'm like, oh, I really need to improve this. Um, I'm definitely not in front of the camera person. I'm much more behind the scenes, so this is a bit new for me. But it feels cool, like to be able to have accomplished this huge thing that a lot of people always say that they want to do, and then they don't end up doing it. And being able to have my first book be a project that is so meaningful as well, working with some of the best people you could probably ask for to work on a project like this, whether it's Mickey or Sarah or the publisher, but also talking to all of the interviewees like Dave and everybody else. It feels so good to be able to amplify all of these stories, all of these perspectives in a book that also actually really looks good as well. So everything just all combined together, it's like, wow, this is really just an incredible piece of work that has come out. And then through that, I ended up, because I wanted to do the direct sales for that, I ended up launching a bookstore with a whole bunch of other coffee books. And so, I thought I would be able to take a rest after the book came out, and that hasn't quite happened yet because now I'm going into a whole different business, and being a book salesperson or a bookshop owner. And it's just very exciting, like, because I know what I went through, and there are so many other coffee authors out there who have gone through the same thing, and being able to have this platform to really share all of our work together is just the coolest. Like, I found through Mickey and through this book, I have found, I think, my niche in the coffee industry, which is bringing coffee and books and writing together in a format that people have been really enthusiastic about. So yeah, I'm feeling really good. I love it.
You should be incredibly proud. The book looks, is, and written very, very well. And I'm excited. Has anyone reached out to you guys and like said they've read it and said something nice or positive, or that you guys could share maybe?
Yeah, a few people. Obviously, like my dad and really close friends have come and said that it's really good, but I think they're really biased as well. But I have a few, like not complete strangers, but like just coffee people came up and say either it's very well written. Um, One of my high school friends told me that like he's not a coffee person. He likes coffee, but not a coffee professional. Say it's very relatable to what he does. And I have a few people texting me, like DM me on Instagram, say, oh, like I'm only starting to read the book, but it is a pretty lengthy book. So like they're like, oh, I'm excited to already start doing some of the exercises, but I'm excited to see what's coming in the later chapters as well. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's also pretty scary to realize that Tigger really knows a lot of stuff about me. So like I read some of the chapters, like I didn't say this to her. How did she find out? She just like stalk, like Instagram or like Google something from like 10 years ago and found out something about me. But yeah, like it's pretty cool, and yeah, it's great that other people can learn that about my story as well.
Yeah, I think one of your earlier questions was like kind of why Mickey didn't write it himself, because he is a really good writer, and that was such a good resource for me because he posted everything about his life for the past 10, 12 years on Instagram, and he's been so expressive and so meticulous in keeping records and stuff that I had so much material to work with and to build on from. So that made my life a lot easier.
I've
But yeah,
secretly dreamt of having a book for the past 15 years.
I think you prepared yourself for it very well. Like everything is on there.
I live my life like it's a movie, so
Yeah.
maybe that's one of. And also my dad. My dad gave Tigger an access to like this shared photo album with, I don't know, 700 pictures or something of like my childhood, like things that I did in high school. Like he wrote about me in high school, like things like that. It's just massive shared iCloud album. Yeah, but he's definitely one of the. I think he made it very accessible for me and Tigger to just tap into certain pictures and stories and things like that.
Yeah, he was also very open about talking about things, even very vulnerable things from his past, and I think maybe that's where you get it from, Mickey. Just very in touch with your emotions, and yeah, I'm so appreciative that they had let me into their lives and being able to build up and see. I think there were a lot of wedding photos as well from your parents included in the albums and like photos of when they were maybe kids and dating and stuff. I was like, wow, they're just so, they just are so willing to share and that made it so much easier. So, yeah, it's nice.
Hey, team, last question. Where can people find the book online, in store? Where can they get it?
If you're in Indonesia, you want to continue?
Yes, if you're in Indonesia, it's available on Tokopedia, which is a e-commerce platform, um, and also Peri Plus, which is the book chain that Tigger mentioned earlier. The Indonesian version is currently printing, so we'll have the Bahasa Indonesia version hopefully by January, because it's supposed to ship out by the end of December. It would be cheaper as well. One of my goals is to make sure that Indonesian baristas can afford the book, because not everybody can pay, what is it, 50 something US dollars for for a book or understand English. So we wanted to make sure that it's available for them. So Tokopedia or Peri Plus, and then if you're in the northern part of the world, then you go to Tigger.
Yeah, so if you're anywhere else, I will do my best to get it to you. If you just go on contributor.coffee, it's the website for the web shop, and that's where I have all of the coffee books, so not just Bloom. It was definitely for me, one of my frustrations is all of these independently published coffee books. You have to go around to all of these different shops to buy them, and you can only get one book from Ireland or one book from Germany or whatever. So I really want everything to be at one place. And so that's where you can get Bloom, but you can also stock up on a lot of different coffee books as well. And it's just run by me. So if you have a complicated shipping logistics, I will try my best. It is a heavy book. It weighs over a kilo, so shipping costs do run a little bit high. And but if you want to combine that with other books just to make it more worth it, then that's also an option.
Okay, team. Well, congratulations on the book. Amazing job. Super proud of you guys. Well done. And I guess I should be asking what's next for 2026? What are you both doing next year?
Well, I'm so I've been a freelancer for a very, very long time, and now that I'm running contributor, I'm going to reduce freelancing and focus on that. So expanding the catalog, and I just signed my very first studio space to have a physical book
Cool.
bookshop that's not my living room. So it's going to be like a legit thing. So I'm very excited for that. And I also want to do some like workshops and tasting where maybe I have all of these cool books with a lot of different recipes and things you can try out in them. And maybe if I do, my idea is to have these sessions where we can try out recipes in certain books and so that people can access, what is DOA milk or, how does it taste like or things like that. And being able to serve that and, invite them into the book in a different way. So that's my goal for the next year. And the very first time I'll be somewhere with contributor is the Nordic Coffee Fest. So if you're there, I'll be there at the end of February.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Miki, what do you got going on next year?
Well, a few things. One is obviously the book, and promoting that all over the world. We're trying to see if I can make the Nordic Coffee Fest, but otherwise I'll be in Dubai for one day, Brewing Gadget is going to yeah, one day. Technically, not even 24 hours. Brewing Gadget in Dubai and India are going to carry the book as well. So I'm going to be there, and then few other cities for the book. I'm taking Oma Cafe on the road. So we'll have a few different pop-ups for Oma Cafe, and then obviously a lot of brand ambassadorship work. But also one of my goal, of what the next, was to support Yesi in whatever she want to do career-wise. And she's doing something new. I'll let her reveal it herself soon, but she's doing something new, still within the ecosystem. And yeah, I want to be able to support her as well with that.
Oh, that's exciting, and I like how you just left the cliffhanger there. So maybe I bring her on the podcast and do the big
Yes.
reveal.
Yeah, that could work. Yes.
Okay, team, really, really appreciate you guys. Thanks for taking the time. I know it was hard to connect, so thank you so much, and
Thank you.
enjoy the holidays. We'll see you somewhere in the world in 2026.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much, Dave, for all of your support on this project too. You know, being one of the interviewees and supplying your perspective and all of that. So,
I have my review. I have my review going up soon. Now that I finished
Nice.
the book, it'll be up soon.
wow, nice. The first, I think, public review.
Oh yeah? Well, I better get it out there today, because otherwise someone will steal that. Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Chat soon.